Hi there, friends. Welcome. I'm Mary Knabe, coming to you live on May 9th, Thursday, May 9th, from my Stampin' studio in Westerville, Ohio. It's kind of a gloomy day today. Yesterday we had great sunny weather, blue skies, warm but not hot, but it's cooling off a bit, and we're due to get some more rain this week. Later this afternoon. So good day for me to be busy down here in my studio. I hope you are having a good day as well. And for any of those of you who have been in the face of dangerous weather this week, I hope you and your family are safe and okay. Yesterday's Facebook Live, I showed, I featured the Wildly Flowering Suite with the Wildflower Designs stamp set and dies. And we made 2 cards. Here's one. They are fun folds. The second one, or the first one, I actually made this pocket. Whoops, I just pulled it apart. Made this pocket, so it could be a gift card holder as well. Great for teachers, Mother's Day. It's Nurses Week. Congratulations, graduates. Birthdays, anything you can think of. And then here's another with the same fun fold layout, but I just kept it a card. So you can see here, you can leave it like this and keep it a card, or you can seal these 2 small ends, and that will be your pocket for a gift card. So, the replay of that video is here on Facebook on Stampin' with Mary Knabe. And hopefully by this evening, I will have it up on YouTube as well as stampinpiece.com, which is my website and blog. And there you will get, in addition to the video replay, you'll get photos of each of the cards, dimensions for each of the cards, as well as a link to products used. Today I'm featuring the same suite, Wildly Flowering, and this time we're going to make a slimline card and a coordinating envelope using the Wildly Flowering DSP. So it's been a while since we've done some slimline cards, but I think you're really going to like this, and I think you're going to like it even more when you see how easy it is to create a coordinating envelope for your slimline card. I'm going to flip my camera around now, and while I do that, would you please share this live video and invite others to join us this afternoon? And just a reminder, if it's easy, you can tag your friends right in the comments. Just type their name in the comments to invite them over to Stampin' Piece with Mary Knabe for this demonstration. Trying to get that glare out of the viewing range. On my camera, it shows that the glare is just outside of the viewing range, but on my computer, I see that it's still there. So hopefully it's not too bothersome, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But that being said, I would not give up working with my clear glass mat, because it's fabulous. I'll never go back to using any other mat. All right, so again, I said we'd be using some of the DSP from Wildly Flowering pack. Today's going to be pretty much a tone-on-tone card. I'm using Moody Mauve. I have a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock that I'll be cutting down for my slimline card base. I have a piece of DSP that also measures 8.5 by 11. This is what I'll be using to make the coordinating envelope at the end. And then I have a piece of white cardstock as well as designer series paper for the front of my card. These both measure 8.25 by 3.25 inches. And I have two 1-inch squares from the Moody Mauve. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to cut your 8.5 by 11 cardstock to make the card base, your Slimline card base. Your finished Slimline card base, this is finished folded, will be 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. Okay, 3.5 by 8.5. So we need a piece that measures 7 inches by 8.5. Now we know this long side is 11 inches. I'm just going to cut off 4 because 11 minus 4 will give me the 7 inches I need. Or of course, if you prefer, you can pull out the arm of your paper trimmer and cut to 7 inches that way. So now I have 7 inches by 8.5, and I want to score down the middle. So half of 7 inches is 3.5. So I'll make my score line there. And then you just want to be sure to give that fold a really good crease using your bone folder. I'm basically going to put the majority of the card together, and then I'm going to be doing the stamping and die cutting to finish off my card. So I'm going to put a sentiment on the inside of my card, and so I will stamp that in Moody Mauve onto my basic white rectangle. And again, this measures 3.25 inches by 8.25. And I'm going to use the lines on my glass mat to kind of put my cardstock straight, and that will help me, I hope, stamp straight onto the cardstock. Oh, looks good. Okay, you've been on my mind. I love this sentiment because it's good for so many reasons. Sometimes somebody just pops into your head, right? And you have this great memory or something that makes you laugh or smile. What a great way to tell them with a hand stamp card. Or it could be that somebody's going through a difficult time and they are occupying your thoughts and you want to let them know. This also is good for that. So in other words, it can be for sunny thoughts or difficult thoughts, but it works either way. Now I'm going to add my designer series paper, also 3.25 inches by 8.25. And this particular print of DSP is directional, and I am making a horizontal or landscape position card. So I've got that cut to the right direction. Now, if I wanted to make a vertical card, I would probably want to turn that DSP so that the direction would be correct in the vertical position. All right. Now I've got these two little 1x1 squares. I want to cut these in half diagonally. You can certainly do this with our paper trimmer, but since they're so small, I'm just going to use my snips. If I had bigger squares to cut on the diagonal, I definitely would be doing it with my paper trimmer. But like I said, with this small size, it's really easy for me to go from one point to the opposite point with my snips. And then I'm just going to put a dot of multi-purpose glue in each corner You're probably thinking, when are we going to get to the stamping? We will, trust me, because the stamping and die cutting is what will finish off this card. It's pretty simple, pretty basic right now, but by the time I finish, it's going to be gorgeous, if I do say so myself. And give credit where credit's due. When you're working and you're really proud of something, tell yourself you did a great job, right? We have to be our own best advocates, no matter what we're doing in life. So own it, be proud, and tell yourself. Do you ever have a day where negative thoughts are kind of filling your head? No. None of us needs that, right? So let's work harder at filling our heads with good thoughts. Okay, so I just placed those in the corners, and I'll be adding my stamping and die cutting to this, as well as some embellishments at the end. So I'm going to set that aside for now. And I'm going to stamp the small pair of flowers 3 times. And I'm going to die cut it with the smallest 6-sided die. I like to sometimes use my dies as a guide to where I'm going to stamp. Now you can see these are just scraps I pulled, but they happen to be just the right size for this die. Don't you love it when that happens? You have just the right size scrap. But I want to make sure that my flower is pretty well centered, and I want to be as efficient as possible with my cardstock. So I'm using this as my guide. Of course, you don't have to do that, but I have found it to be a helpful thing for me at times, especially when I'm trying to be frugal with my supplies and my scraps, etc. Did you ever grow up with that saying? In my house, I heard it all the time. Waste not, want not. Did you ever hear that? But now I think, waste not, because I want more stamps, right? We have to save money on the small things so we can enjoy purchasing new stamps when we have the chance. All right, now I'm going to do some quick coloring. I'm using, again, this is mainly a tone-on-tone card, and I'll be adding the Mossy Meadow green. Is that one Mossy Meadow? Yes, it is. It looked old olive to me, for the leaves. And the way these flowers and leaves are drawn, you don't have to worry about coloring perfectly. Trust me, anybody can do this. And I like to use the large paintbrush tip of my blends and just kind of do like brush strokes, not coloring back and forth, just kind of light brush strokes. I hardly am touching the paper, just touch the tip to your cardstock. If you're more comfortable using the smaller end, by all means do that. I always encourage people to try both ways. And trust me, I do that too. Especially when I'm working with new tools or whatever it may be. I often will try a couple of different ways and see which way I'm more comfortable. That's also true for the light and dark shades. Some people start with dark and fill in with the light. for me, it varies. I don't know why. When it's small things like this, I usually fill in with the light and then just do some quick accents with the dark. If it would be, say, for example, like a larger rose or something, I probably would put the dark shades where I want them first, and usually our stamped images guide us to do that, and then I would fill in with the light. So that's a long way of saying, try it both ways and see what works best for you. I saw Barbara said her internet is spotty. We are expecting some storms again in central Ohio a little bit later. So perhaps that is why your internet is spotty. Excuse me. Oh, that tip doesn't. It's kind of worn out, so I'm going to use the small one. And see these tiny little leaves? I just touch a little bit of the tip right to those. You're going to go outside the lines on those tiniest little leaves, but it's okay. You can't even tell from here, can you? It still is very neat. Okay. And I know some of you at first glance might have thought, oh, Mary, I don't want to do all that coloring. But look how quickly it's going. Quick and easy. I find coloring relaxing. I know not everybody does. And honestly, I really don't do it outside of my stamping hobby or business. But I do find it relaxing. I know not everybody is that way though. But that's proof that it is quick and easy. So now I'm going to die cut these. And then we're going to add them to our card front. And I am going to use my Post-it tape to hold the die in place. There's one. Here's number 2. How many of you make slimline cards? I make the standard A2 size more than anything, but I do like making the slimline cards. And I'm going to show you how to make a coordinating envelope with it. But if perhaps you don't have the right DSP, you can use cardstock, 8.5 by 11 cardstock, to make the coordinating envelope, or you can simply mail in a standard like letter business size envelope that you can buy at any big box store or office supply store, Amazon. You can find them anywhere. Kind of like the size envelope that your bills come in, not to be, not to remind you about we have to pay bills, but for example, that's what it would be, okay? And they're, like I said, they're very easy to find, but sometimes I think it's fun just to do a pretty decorative envelope. Okay, so I want to put all these onto my card. I'm going to attach them with dimensionals. And I'll show you an easy way to space these. Before I do that, though, I want to add some linen thread. Oh, that's... And do you see what my holder is? It's a little Ohio State shot glass. My one of my demonstrator friends, Stella McKay, who actually lives in California, so quite a distance from me, sent me that as a surprise one year because we like to tease each other during college football season. Her family is, let me think, big fans of University of Alabama, Roll Tide. And my family's very big into the Ohio State University. So we tease each other, all in good fun. But she said she saw that in an antique store in Northern California. And she said, I just had to get it for you. So I always think of her when I pull that out. But it holds my linen thread or sometimes baker's twine. And I decided to do a double bow. Just because of the size of the card, I thought doubling the linen thread would look nice here. Okay, I'm satisfied with that, so let me trim some ends. I am going to leave my ends a little bit long. Now let's add our stamped and die cut pieces. The first one I'm going to add is the center one. Now we know that this is 8.5 inches long, and you won't be able to see my measurements at the bottom here, but I can. So that I'm at 8.5, and 4 1/4 is right about here. So I want the point, the top and bottom points to kind of be right at 4 1/4. Simple, right? I'm going to scoot this bow down and over just a little bit there, because I want it to show up kind of between the pieces. And then I'm going to adhere the next one to the right, just leaving a small space. I'm not measuring that one. But visually, it's going to be very easy for me to approximate that same space on the other side, except I have this little knot in my way. I didn't scoot this over. If you ever want to move a bow or a ribbon, just kind of curl your paper a little bit, and that gives you some slack so that you can move it the way you want to, left, right, or up or down. I think that's enough, is it? I'll do that. Pull up my loops and ends so they're not hidden underneath. Ooh, I like this. Okay. Oops. Reposition that. It needs to go up a tad bit higher. And instead of moving that linen thread again, I'm going to do something even easier to get my spacing correct. I almost got it, but I'm going to pick this up gently. Maybe I should have placed the left one before the right, since I had the bow on that side. And there's that. Now I'm going to finish off the front with these textured dots, adhesive back textured dots. These are part of the Wildly Flowering product suite. And I'm going to put one in each of those Moody Mauve corners. I really like these. Can you see how thin these are? Let me turn it this way. Can you see that? Trying to get it up close. Super thin, super thin. So they're not going to be adding a lot of height or a lot of bulk when you're mailing these cards. Okay, my friends, what do you think of the card? What do you think? Simple, elegant, pretty, not at all hard to make, was it? Not at all hard. Now, let's make a coordinating envelope. Whatever you're using to make the envelope, it needs to be 11 inches by 8.5. And direction-wise, it really doesn't depend, or I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot. My card is horizontal, so I want the pattern on my DSP to look horizontal for the envelope as well, but it doesn't really matter. Perhaps if I was doing a vertical card and the DSP, of course, was in the vertical position, I might want to cut it so it's this direction. All right, but it doesn't really matter. So I have 11 inches by 8.5. You could also just use plain cardstock. Our cardstock is cut to that size, 11 inches by 8.5 inches. Then we need to do some scoring. So, and kind of keep track of the top, bottom, left, and right sides, okay? So here's my top. I want to score along the top at 2.5 inches, okay? Scoring at 2.5. And then I'm going to flip it and score at 2 inches from the bottom edge. Okay, so let me repeat that. So I'm scoring lines that are parallel to the top and bottom edges. 2.5 inches below the top edge and 2 inches from the bottom edge. Then on this side, I want to score at 1.25 inch. So on the right side, I'm scoring at 1.25 inch. And then on the other side, what is the left side, although I flipped it around, I'm going to score at 3/4 inches. All right. So 2.5 inches from the top, 2 inches from the bottom, 1.25 from the right, 3/4 inch from the left. Then I'm going to use my snips, and I'm basically getting rid of the 4 corners. But what I'm going to do is, instead of cutting on the exact rectangle on those score lines, I'm going to be cutting on an angle just outside the score lines. So let me show you what I mean. Can you see that score line? I'm starting just outside of it, and I'm going to cut to where the vertical and horizontal score lines intersect. Same thing here. Whoops. Didn't quite go to the intersecting spot. There we go. And I'm going to do the same on all 4 corners. when you cut at an angle outside those spaces you need to get rid of, it really makes your the folding a little better. You're not going to get any bulky spots, okay? So again, here's my top, bottom, left, and right sides, all right? I'm going to flip it. So this is what would be on the inside. And then fold the large flap and then the small flap. If you fold the large flap and then the small flap on top of it, you're basically going to have your seam right down the center, okay? Right down the center, quick and easy. And I'm going to seal this with multi-purpose glue, just a narrow line on that edge. Hold it down for a few seconds to make sure it seals well. And then the small flap I want to close up. Be careful where you're putting the glue here. You can see there's a space between the flap and the main part of the envelope. You don't want glue in there, okay? So if you just go along each side and across the end, you should be good. If you have glue seeping out like that, just put a piece of scrap paper over it and rub it, or you can use, like I do, my silicone mat, and that will pick up the glue. See that? And then when it dries, this is from yesterday, you just rub it off with your finger. It's like the easiest thing. In fact, when Riley's a little bit older, that might have to be her job. Clean up Grandma's messes. I don't know if she'll like that or not. And then I like to, let me find it here. I like to use a piece of our Terran tape to put on the top. The reason I use it here is I'm going to put my card in and seal it off eventually, right? But maybe I'm not sending this card right away, but I do want to have it ready for mailing whenever I do get it out to use. So this way I can put my Terran tape on. I'm going to leave that adhesive backing on it, okay? And then when I've got my card ready to mail somebody, I just slip it in, pull off the adhesive backing, and seal it. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, but Mary, that's going to be hard to write on here. And it may be, depending on, I think this is a little dark too. If we want to keep our mail carriers happy, we're going to make things easy for them to read, right? What I typically do is just take like a white label. I use them for like putting labels on the back of my catalogs to mail to people, or what else do I use them for? If you've purchased any of my classes to go, they come with a label stating the name of the class, the month and year, and my contact information, things like that. And you can buy them, again, at any big box store, office supply store, Amazon, whatever. But I'll just put a little label on, and that's where I address my envelope. If you don't want to do the label, simply do a little note paper or a small piece of cardstock, write on it, and then adhere it to your card front. Easy peasy, right? Okay, so let's take another look. This is, I have to say, today's a hard day because this is not the same as my sample. I'll show you the sample in a minute, but I usually do a sample or a few and then remake those for the Facebook Live, and that's what I get away. But gosh darn it, I'd kind of like to keep this. But you know what? I'm not going to, because I know you all like it when I give away cards. So some lucky winner will get to receive this card in the mail so that they can mail it off and spread some happiness and cheer to somebody else. So you've been on my mind. Today's, today's code word, if you'd like to have your name entered into the drawing to possibly receive this card, let's do Moody Mauve. Moody Mauve. All right, type in the comments now, Moody Mauve. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull in my original sample. It is good to make different things because then you get to see more than one. I'm going to flip this over like that. Can you see it? Okay. Moody Mauve. Okay, here is my other card. You can see I used a different color scheme, the Mossy Meadow Crumb Cake, and then the flowers I did, Moody Mauve, Wild Wheat, and Misty Moonlight. All right, I didn't put a sentiment in that one yet, but it's basically the same. Tell me, do you like it with the linen thread or without? With or without? And then this is the Designer Series pattern, paper pattern, also from the Wildly Flowering pack that I used to make the envelope. And it actually just happens to be the reverse of this one. So, so somebody, when I send this, somebody will get a real vibrant, colorful envelope. All right, who is going to, with linen, okay. With is it. I'm like, oh, I might have to add that to this card before I mail it. But anyways, I was just curious. I like to hear what your opinions are and what appeals to you. I think a lot of you are kind of into the bling factor. We think a little more, still keeping it elegant and nice and not overdone, but the extra little something in there. But I love how that turned out with the linen thread. All right, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of the Slimline cards. Jody, you just made my day, saying that's not something you usually make, but you think you're going to give this a try. You just made my day. And I hope that you'll send a picture to me or post it here on Stampin' Piece with Mary Knabe. I always love to see what you all make. So I hope that you will do that. Have a great weekend. I can hardly believe it's Thursday already. Have a great weekend. I will be busy. I need to get a class to go out, class to go kits. What else do I have to do? Sorting for my in-color clubs and just general working hard at my business. So thanks very much for joining me. Have a great weekend and happy stamping until we meet again next week. Bye-bye.